So here we are at the IAC Summit in Washington, D.C., and anyone who is not familiar with this face, well, don't know where you've been. This is Mr. Shabbos Kestenbaum, Harvard student, one of the most vocal, at least PR-wise, got on media in terms of the growing Jew-hating anti-Semitism on college campuses today. You've really been out in front of this fight. I understand you even, you're going to the courts in order to sue Harvard. Why don't we take a step back? What are Jewish students experiencing right now on these college campuses?
Sure. So I may be the most vocal, but I'm certainly not the most intelligent, articulate, or brave. That is the other Jewish students who are fighting for the Jewish people in the state of Israel and the United States every day. Look, at Harvard University alone, we had a Jewish student spat on for wearing a kippah, an Israeli student being told by a professor to leave the class because their nationality made others uncomfortable. Staff member challenged me to debate him as whether Jews were behind 9/11, then taunted me with a machete. We could talk about Hannah from Berkeley who had a rock thrown through her dorm window with a note saying F Jews. Eden from Columbia who's being stalked back to her dorm each night. The reality is the treatment of Jewish Americans on college campuses is a national emergency, and that's what I have continuously said to the national media, to Jewish organizations, and to the United States Congress, Democrats and Republicans alike.
And with all of your activity in trying to make a difference with professors, with administrations of the university, specifically Harvard or of others, how much is there of a will to really try to solve this problem and make the campuses safer for the Jewish students?
Look, I always say if Harvard wanted to combat anti-Semitism, if they wanted to implement policies that would alleviate the concerns of Jewish students, they would have done it already. We're now, what, a year out of October 7th? And by the way, if you read our lawsuit, which I encourage all of your viewers to do, many of the instances were well before October 7th. So the universities will not change unless they are forced to do it, whether it's because of public scrutiny, whether it's because of a court of law, whether it's because their donors pull out their money. So this is an all-hands-on-deck problem, but it's an all-hands-on-deck solution. If you're a donor, if you're someone who's sending their kids to colleges, if you're just a concerned American or a concerned Israeli, you have the power to alleviate the problems that so many of us are facing.
Okay. And then one of the issues that's been close to my heart, I've been talking about for years, and we actually had a conference in Jerusalem last summer highlighting this. Elon Carr was actually our keynote speaker at the Begin Center, was highlighting the anti-Semitism behind the Palestinian national movement, which, when you think about it, that is the core of the growing Jew hatred on all these college campuses today. And my concern is for the Jewish students, because every day, where I call it whack-a-mole, they're blasted with more lies and more lies. And from my understanding, and we spoke about before, and I asked you as well, most of the organizations out there trying to help these students on campuses are basically just providing them with the information to deal with the daily lies, which it's very disabilitating and can get very negative. That's the reason we're in the process of launching a project called the Pulse of Israel Warriors Project to allow students to go on the offense, be proud of their Judaism, wear that, and in that way be able to better deal with the growing anti-Semitism around them. What is your thoughts about that and those strategies?
Sure. So let me validate that concern. Jewish students today are more often than not simply reacting to issues. They are not proactive. They are not taking control of the narrative. They're simply responding to the narrative. So the best thing for the Jewish nonprofit space, the best thing for Jewish students is to own that narrative, own that ideology. You know, I'm a progressive. This is where we probably disagree. And Israel is a progressive issue. If you care about the emancipation of women, if you care about LGBTQ plus rights, if you care about a strong, stable democracy in the Middle East, then you care about the strength and security of the state of Israel. So rather than simply responding to silly accusations, blood libels, really, of genocide, apartheid, and settler colonialism, talk about the strength, talk about the beauty of the land of Israel, talk about the 2 million Arab citizens, talk about the freedom of worship for Christians, which is a pretty rare thing today in the Middle East. Right. And if we talk about those things, we will be able to create allyship and alliances with all sorts of ideologies instead of just responding to silly accusations.
Well, it's interesting because I think on this we'll agree, because it follows what you say, and I say this a lot. Israel is the only country in the Middle East where a Sunni Muslim, a Shiite Muslim, a female Muslim, a gay Muslim, an atheist-born Muslim has freedom and equality together with all minorities, Jews, Christians, etc. Yeah. But the thing is that the reason I want students to know that, not in order to convince the other students, because many of them, they're just so brainwashed, and some of them you can reach, but others, they're not going to care about those facts. But it's allowing the Jews to feel proud of their own identity and the truth about the Jewish state of Israel that is not being shown with them and shared with them. And the other thing that I like to tell people, if you think about it, the Jewish people, we're the only indigenous people in the world who have returned after 2,000 years of continued exile and persecution to return to be sovereign in our ancestral homeland, is overcoming oppression. Isn't that the epitome of what the whole progressive, oppressed, whatever the whole that's? We should be the poster child of universities and professors and classes, and even too many Jewish students are not even familiar with that.
Correct. I think the first step to combating anti-Semitism is understanding what being Jewish means, what Jewish values are, because there's a lot more than simply tikkun olam. I would also add that, yes, the State of Israel is the most successful example of decolonization in modern world history. I mean, it's simply remarkable how after 3,000 years, indigenous people can go back to their ancestral homeland. But ultimately, when people ask me, how do we fight back, the biggest thing is education. You know, the scary reality, the unfortunate open secret is that many of the encampment leaders of these universities were Jewish people.
Right.
And these are people who can't read Hebrew. They've never been to Israel. They've never opened up a Talmud. If you would ask them what this week's parsha is, they wouldn't know what you're referring to. So if you want to combat anti-Semitism, first create strong, proud, loud Jews.
Right.
As young as possible, as early as possible.
Right. And I can't have heard a better, more supportive sentence for this Pulse of Israel project, for the warriors that we're in the process of launching off the ground. Shabbos, listen, kol hakavod for you being one of these proud voices today. Seriously, not just making a dent in history, but a big dent. And please, God, may HaKadosh Baruch Hu, may Hashem continue to be looking after you and giving you the strength and the knowledge and intuition to be making those right decisions for you, for American Jewry, and for world Jewry, and for the Jewish state of Israel. So thank you for your work.
Thank you. Am Yisrael Chai.
Am Yisrael Chai.
Pulse of Israel, frontline videos from the Holy Land. Support our work by donating today.